So Sinners came out last weekend, the latest film from director Ryan Coogler, and it's releasing in a very interesting time in the industry. Not only is it like the third movie where the same actor plays two different roles, but it also continues Coogler's progression and his class of directors into becoming household names. And what I mean by his class of directors are those that broke out in their careers in the late 2010s. You know, the class that includes your Greta Gerwigs, your Ari Asters, Jordan Peele's, and much more that would plant their flags as cinema's next wave of premier talent. Now fast forward 10 some odd years later, we've seen studios giving these directors more say and more money to deliver their films, becoming much bigger and bolder with their artistic voice. And the same goes for Coogler, having an exceptional debut with Fruitvale Station, leading to his total knockout with Creed, and finally his work with the Black Panther franchise, which landed Marvel Studios the first Best Picture nod. It very much feels like the next step, given his incredible track record as a director, was to go the way of his contemporaries, which is bigger and bolder. Sinners would and is that project, but not in the way that you'd think. First and foremost, to get this out of the way, Sinners is incredible. It's a film that is beautiful to look at and tantalizing to listen to. It's multi-genre to its core, harboring elements of the western, thriller, horror, and even musical. And while themes on religion, artistic expression, assimilation of culture, and exploitation of said cultures are very much woven through its DNA, I can't help but think that this is his simplest film to date. And that's absolutely not a slight against it. The film very much feels like a throwback to movies of another age, the true, original, non-IP, non-sequel, killer, no-filler blockbuster that will stay in the theaters for 3 to 4 months because of how great it is.
I approached it quite differently from how I usually work in terms of film research. I actually tried to do it from memory this time. Like the moments that I remembered from theatrical experiences specifically. Films that did that for me the most tended to be films with like some pretty thrilling, dare I say, horrific elements, you know? Like I think about Jurassic Park and seeing like the T-Rex chase the Jeep and just being like, yo, what am I looking at? And having that feeling, you know, it's just pure adrenaline. You know what I'm saying? And fear and not knowing where it's going.
And given the people working on this, like cinematographer Autumn Akpa, production designer Hannah Beachler, and composer Ludwig Göransson, the math adds up to a polished film that has an immense amount of weight and care. And even if it emotionally feels very light when compared to his usual stuff, that's very much by design.
The working title for this film was Grilled Cheese. Why grilled cheese, of all things?
That's a great question, bro. I love to cook. I was feeling like I was making like these like super complicated dishes with these last few movies, and I was like, I want to make something simple that everybody like knows is simple, but they still like. So I call it like a grilled cheese sandwich.
Something else that's very interesting with the release of the film, other than how great that this kind of movie is back in the theaters again, is the talk around it.
And coming off of spending so much time making 2 comic book movies and a boxing movie, and you know, I wanted to make something original. You know, I was really from my soul, you know, and about what I'm interested in. Before it was too late.
I think the most obvious aspect about this clip is that given the amount of goodwill and capital he gained over the course of his previous big IP swings and how much they hit, this kind of comes off as a kind of one for them, one for me sort of thing. Now, yes, these films come from different studios and production companies, but I'm looking at it from a industry point of view rather than just one company. We've seen these kinds of things before, the latest and probably most popular example being Christopher Nolan's deal with Warner Brothers, with the working agreement being do 3 Batman movies and we'll help fund 3 of your own movies. Sinners is also produced and being distributed by Warner Brothers, so that kind of gives us insight as to how this deal can potentially go. But the thing that's most notable and making rounds around social media is that Coogler and Warner Brothers brokered a deal that would allow Coogler to attain ownership 25 years after the release of the film. Now that is pretty much unheard of. The only other kind of deal I know is Tarantino with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which really opened my eyes as to what this all means in terms of directors and the relationships they have with studios, and maybe where their partnership is headed. One of my favorite pieces of marketing, and definitely that of Sinners, is this video.
Hey, what's going on? I'm Ryan Coogler. In anticipation of the release of our newest film, Sinners, I just wanted to walk you guys through a little bit of information on how he made the film, as it might provide some context for what tickets you guys choose to buy once they go on sale.
It's pretty much Ryan Coogler doing a 10-minute crash course on different film formats, as well as those used for the screenings of Sinners. And it's such a great watch seeing him nerd out and explain his reasonings, use cases, and other technical information surrounding the film and movies in general. Not only does it show his obvious competence as a director, but it shows how much he deeply cares about his film. So much so that he wants to own it. It's pretty much been an open secret how much studios have taken the idea of making movies rather than films and ran that idea through their entire ecosystems, relying less on the talent of the directors and more on the popularity of the IP. Because no matter how terrible the movie may be, it'll make money hand over fist because the name is just that strong. And I think what Sinners represents as a piece of artwork is a fairly loud and direct response to that ongoing movement. A legit throwback of a crowd-pleasing film, multi-genre, incredibly entertaining blockbuster, directed by still one of Hollywood's younger talents. Hell, one of the central premises of the film revolves around art and creative expression, and how it shapes culture through decades and with varying successes. The film's advocating for directors having more ownership in their art, more say in how it's produced and distributed, and more weight dedicated to said art. Coogler isn't the only one either. Nolan has been championing the progression of film from the technical side for what feels like forever, and more recently, Sean Baker's been saying the same thing in regards to the movie-going experience.
And right now, the theater-going experience is under threat. Movie theaters, especially independently owned theaters, are struggling, and it's up to us to support them.
Now yes, Coogler's class of directors are still getting decent budgets on their films, but this is happening at the same time when a certain kind of movie is being backed by these studios, making this a crucial transitional period within the industry. Realistically though, I have my doubts that era of filmmaking is ever gonna come back. That time of originality and heart in the biggest and most lucrative films of the year. But what Ryan Coogler's Sinners has shown us, and the films from his class of directors, is that you should try. No matter how dark cinema's future is, only the films that have meaning will truly last. And there'll always be a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, come on, sing y'all, sing. Somebody take me in your arms tonight. Oh, last time, so somebody